It's wonderful that you're here because today I would like to share with you how I met my spiritual teacher in this life.
Shri Vitthala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namaha.
So all of this started basically in the beginning of 2025. That's where I would like to start the story. This particular teacher that I would like to share with you, I connected already with him in 2018 through some of his disciples. I had a dream with him, but I kind of like always saw him as this mystic yogi that was performing different miracles, healing people, manifesting things. And I had a good friend, my older brother Navaratri, that was a disciple of him, through who I was hearing different stories, different things about him, but I always felt, okay, it's a genuine teacher, but it's not for me because I want Bhakti. I'm not so interested in mysticism, I want Bhakti. Turns out I was really wrong by making that judgment, but I was kind of covered. I had to come to a point in my life where I was feeling so depressed, so low, that I felt I had no other chance than reaching out to this teacher. Not through a phone call, not by meeting him in person, but by calling his name. Because my older brother Navaratri had told me, see, you have to say his name 3 times. When you say his name 3 times, he will appear to you and he will help you. And even that I didn't really want to do at that time because I felt I have my spiritual teacher, I have my spiritual tradition.
From 2013 until the end of 2024, I had been part of the Hare Krishna movement, and you can see me here assisting as a priest in the Narasimha Yajna.
But then in the beginning of 2025, I realized that this was not my spiritual home anymore. That I had had so many different spiritual experiences, especially on my journey in Rishikesh and Sri Lanka, and what I had experienced was not matching anymore what was being taught in that particular tradition. I kind of like felt out of place. I felt like an alien. I felt I couldn't really share what was in my heart. I felt that it was just not my home. I saw it was working so nicely for some people, but it was not working for me. Plus, any friends or connections I had developed over, the 11 years I was involved, they all kind of like were fading away. My heart was going in a completely different direction because what I experienced again in my heart was not matching the particular philosophy, the particular sangha I was involved in at the time. So then I was hearing this Bhakti podcast of a Swami called Revatikanta Swami, and he was speaking about the philosophy of that particular guru, Paramahamsa Vishwananda. And when I was listening to that podcast, I always felt like this is exactly how I experience God. This is exactly how I experience reality. This makes so much sense. But then at the same time, I felt a block that I wanted to be chased to the spiritual teacher I was initiated with at that particular time. I felt like, why would I change that? I made vows, I made eternal vows, so why would I go in any other direction?
Because almost 6 years ago, on the 16th of June 2019 in New York, I had received the name
Sri Gauranga Das.
And from the deepest core of my heart, I'm so very grateful for everything that I have received.
But I was getting more and more curious. And then I was even offered in the end of December to go and see Paramahamsa Vishwananda in the Darshan, but I really didn't want to. I felt that I wanted to stay chaste to my own tradition, to the path I had chosen in 2013. However, then, on that one particular evening, I felt so down, so depressed, so lost because I felt my spiritual life, I couldn't go any further. It was like there was a missing link. Something was missing so I could make sense of all of the different intense spiritual experiences that I had had. And I didn't really share everything with you here, of course, even in my video where I speak about my experiences in Sri Lanka, I don't share everything that unfolded on that evening. But it didn't make sense to me anymore. I felt something was missing here. I knew it was the path of Bhakti, but something was missing here. And then my material life was completely all over the place. I was not happy anymore where I was living. My relationship was going very well with my wife, but that was the only thing. Career-wise, my coaching, my healing, I felt like something was missing for me to really flourish, to really move forward. And On that particular evening, I felt so depressed on one night that I felt like I don't even want to live anymore. I can't do this anymore. Every time I go to the temple, I feel so like low energy afterwards. I feel like I can't really connect with anything there anymore. Like the temple is not my home, the material world is not my home. And my heart, I struggled to get into it. So on that particular evening, I was lying there on the sofa and I was like, okay, whatever. My older brother told me call his name 3 times, so let me just do it. So I said, Paramahamsa Vishwananda, Paramahamsa Vishwananda, Paramahamsa Vishwananda. I said the names and then nothing. In the beginning, nothing happened in the first moment, but then suddenly I felt energy. I got up. I took my bead bag, which is, I don't have it here, but it's basically prayer beads inside a bag you can chant mantras on. So then I was walking up and down and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and I felt suddenly immense bliss in my heart. Like my heart started to open and I started to feel so happy, and I felt suddenly all the burden that I had felt was taken away. And I didn't immediately make the connection between calling his name and that experience, but then suddenly in the eye of my mind, I could see him. I saw Paramahamsa Vishwananda in the eye of my mind smiling at me. Again, I never met him in person, but suddenly his presence was with me. He was with me and I was with him. And it was kind of like something I had never experienced before. And that experience lasted all night. And then again, the next morning, I woke up and I still felt the presence and I still felt that he was with me. And it was very strange for me because I did have spiritual teachers before. I did connect to other powerful beings, but I never felt that someone was just part of me, was in my heart, just present. So days unfolded and I was chanting and I felt so much bliss. I felt so much love. Actually, for the first time I felt this is love. I actually never really felt love. I suddenly felt love for myself, for all other human beings, and even a person, a spiritual teacher that had caused me, not my spiritual teacher that I was initiated by, but one spiritual, so-called spiritual teacher that has really caused me so much pain to me and my wife, that had really heavily abused us. And I always had struggled, to forgive him. I had done so many forgiveness meditations and techniques, and still I felt his energy coming in, and he's also somewhat of a black tantric, but anyway, it was hard for me to let go and forgive. And then suddenly I felt so much love in my heart that when I was thinking of that person that had hurt me so much in this life and that had hurt so many other people, I suddenly felt so much love for him. I felt like I just wanted to go and hug him. Imagine, this is a person that really caused me a lot of pain, but suddenly I just felt love. It was so beautiful, and it is so beautiful. I can't even express it in words, like how beautiful this really is. So then, it kept going on. Like the bliss and the love in my heart kept being there. And then I also, of course, knew that this teacher, Paramahamsa Vishwananda, had a particular mantra that was revealed to him. And that mantra that was revealed to him goes, Sri Vitthala Giridhari, Parabrahmane Namaha. So then I knew about that mantra, but then one day when I was standing under the shower, that mantra came to me, and suddenly I was hearing the mantra, Sri Vitthala Giridhari, Parabrahmane Namaha. And I was just appearing and I was chanting it. And I felt again so much bliss, and my heart was opening, and I felt really myself. I felt myself again. I felt that suddenly everything made sense, and I felt so much love. I still remember, I was sitting here on that sofa and my wife came in one day and she looked at me and I was just sitting there crying tears because I felt so much love. And you have to understand, I had been on this path of Bhakti for 11 years, but never did I have something like that. Never did I experience like so much, inner feelings of love. So I had all of these beautiful experiences, chanting the mantra and going in the forest and just again feeling the presence of Paramahamsa Vishwananda. In my heart, in me, around me, he was just with me. And I didn't know why, but it was just so beautiful. And then one evening, that's the evening where I believe I really understood that he is my spiritual teacher. Again, I hadn't met him yet in person. So this is a bit far out, but anyway, I'm gonna share it with you. So it was evening, I was about to go to rest, and I always wanted to know how it is to experience God inside my heart as the Paramatma. So if you don't know, the Paramatma is basically Vishnu inside of your heart, sitting or standing on a pink lotus. And I never really experienced it like that. Sure, you know, I had my intense experiences of God and the divine, but I had never experienced that. And I wanted to experience that because I didn't feel comfortable to write about something that I had not yet experienced myself. So on that particular evening, I was about to go to sleep, and suddenly I felt his voice saying inside of me, go and meditate. And I was like, okay. So I was going to the living room, sitting down on the sofa, closing my eyes, and you know, not really expecting much. But then suddenly I felt this bliss inside of my heart. I suddenly felt something was opening up in my heart. And I saw like this pink lotus appearing in my heart and a beautiful form of Vishnu. With like a golden helmet and different things he was holding, and such a beautiful bluish form actually that was just standing there and smiling at me. And it was really intense. It was really intense. You know, my body was shaking a little bit. And as much as I was enjoying that experience of seeing and feeling the Paramatma inside my heart, my mind was also freaking out. What is going on? What is happening? So like my mind was kind of like, almost like losing it, because imagine you sit somewhere and suddenly you have like a little temple appearing in your chest and you have the Lord standing there. But at the same time became so happy because when I looked at his face, he was smiling at me. And I could understand that he was always smiling at me, that he had always been with me. Wherever I went, whatever I did, the Lord was always present in my heart and in the heart of every other living being. And God was not judging me. He was not being angry with me or wanting anything from me. He was just sitting there smiling at me, being there to give his blessings. And it was just so beautiful. And of course, at the same time, again, Paramahamsa Vishwananda was there, smiling at me. Yeah, it was incredible, you know. And it was also like, I felt this like white light coming all the way down, entering on top of my head, going in my heart. It was a whole thing that was going on. And then after some time, you know, I was kind of like feeling it, observing it, trying to make sense of it. And then at some point it just faded away and it was gone. And then of course I was trying to again visualize the Paramatma. I was again trying to go within, but the experience was done. I still felt that bliss. I knew what just had happened, but the experience was gone. But of course, this always stayed with me. And as you can imagine, I was so happy. I was so happy that I had experienced this. And I knew from that time that he is a special teacher. He's not just a guru, he's a Sadguru. He is a guru that can give you the divine, that can give you God realization.
I know that it's still going to take some time before my heart is fully purified from all of these different material desires, of all of that ego and mind, but it is so encouraging and beautiful to get a genuine glimpse of the Lord inside my heart.
At that moment, I already knew in my heart that this is my spiritual teacher, but of course my mind was still a bit far from it. But then I went to learn the Atma Kriya Yoga. This is a course that Paramahamsa Vishwananda offers, where you kind of do different pranayams and asanas and meditations to kind of like help you to realize the Atma and then to also realize the Paramatma, God. And I had heard about it for a long time, and I actually really had wanted to do it previously, but because I already was taught some Kriya before, so I really wanted to do it, but I never felt comfortable because I didn't want to get initiated into Shaktipat, and I just wanted to stay chaste to my spiritual teacher and my tradition, although the last 2 years I was basically just suffering in that tradition. Not because there's anything wrong with it, it was just not meant to be for me anymore. I was holding on to something that was not in alignment with me anymore. So then a few days before I knew the next course was happening, I kind of like looked at the teacher, a Swamini. It's very beautiful in their tradition. They don't just have Swamis, but they have Swaminis, female Swamis. And I looked at her picture and I closed my eyes and I just felt, I know this person. And then I got to know that she has some connection with Paramahamsa Yogananda. So I found it very interesting, because at the time when I had connected to Paramahamsa Vishwananda, I had also started to read the autobiography of a yogi. And that particular book kind of like really also did something to me. So I went again into the bedroom, my wife was standing there, we were discussing if we should do that course. And then I was holding up the book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and I was looking at the cover, and suddenly the picture became alive. For a moment, Paramahamsa Yogananda appeared on that picture, looking at me intensely with his eyes and smiling. And I had tears running from my eyes, feeling like I know him. I don't know if it's true, but I had the strong sense that I had been with him before. And because obviously Paramahamsa Yogananda introduced the Kriya around the world, I felt like this was my last sign to go ahead and to do the Atma Kriya Yoga course. So I went, I learned the Kriya. It's such a wonderful thing, you know, it doesn't matter what tradition, what religion, what you're part of, the Atma Kriya Yoga is such a powerful and sweet practice. You know, if you struggle with your emotional health or mental health, or if you want to open your heart, if you want to experience more spirituality in your life, if you want to elevate your consciousness, if you want to enter into mystical dimensions, or if you just want to really deeply connect to God, this Kriya is so powerful. It is so powerful. When I learned that Kriya, like all the different things I had learned before, especially when I was in Rishikesh in Sri Lanka, all the different chakra meditations, all the different pranayams, energy work, I had done so many things. The Atma Kriya Yoga course is everything condensed in one particular practice that is so powerful that by doing it every day, you're going to completely transform, you completely realize your Dharma on this planet, and you're going to start to see God everywhere. So I can really, really just recommend you to do it. So I learned the Kriya, but before the first day of the Kriya training I had arrived in the ashram. And on that particular day, this is another mystical experience. So basically the mobile app on my phone had not been working all day, which was very difficult because we had to travel from here, southeast Germany to kind of like West Germany, and it was just not really working. And I needed my data. But then I had somehow arrived with the phone of my wife, and then I looked at my phone app and I was kind of like, you know, pressing the different buttons, trying to make it work because I really needed the internet. And then suddenly it showed me error code CB341, something like that. And then it said Guru Meditation. The Aldi mobile app said Guru Meditation. I couldn't believe my eyes. I made a screenshot, and trust me, it's not like I was on Spotify listening to a track called Guru Meditation and then Spotify didn't work and it showed it. No, the Aldi mobile app. There's no way randomly that app would suddenly produce the words Guru Meditation. There's no way. There's just no way. So it was another confirmation that I was here not just to learn a Kriya, but to meet my guru. But Paramahamsa Vishwananda was not there at that time. So then, as you can imagine, as I learned the Kriya, I started practicing it, connecting even more deeply with him. I started practicing the Vitthala mantra, and the connection just developed more and more and more. And then when I saw him the first time, again on Shivarati, if you saw the other video, Shiva was also the one that gave me kind of like darshan of the Lord of my heart. And it was Shiva, again, that introduced me to my Sadguru in this life. And I remember when I saw him for the first time, it was really like looking at a human being, but at the same time, I understood this is not just a human being. This is a very extraordinary personality. When I started to connect to Paramahamsa Vishwananda, all these different spiritual and mystical experiences that I had just started to make sense. Everything was falling into place. I was sometimes feeling I'm going crazy before I met him, because I didn't know what was happening or why it was happening. I didn't really understand what was deeply happening inside of me. But when I started to connect to him, everything was falling into place. Some of the things that I had always missed and I knew were so important, I found them in his teachings. And all of that which had unfolded when the Narasimha Dev Shalakram had come to us, which is again God personified in a sacred stone that you find in Nepal, when that Shalakram had come to us, all these things that had unfolded from that time, all made sense. All became one closing picture when I met him for the first time. Okay? So this is really important for me to know, because it's not that I just met him or I connected to him when I called his names, because it was a journey that unfolded through my entire life, where I was prepared, where I was given certain experiences up to this particular point, where I was ready to open my heart to him. And then there was Darshan, an event where he gives out blessings, and I had a very powerful experience in that Darshan, really feeling like recognizing him, crying many, many tears of love and of feeling like I'm finally back home. Tears of sadness and love. It's difficult to put it into words. But it was just like, for me, a continuation of everything that I had experienced before. Like the real genuine connection with him happened in my heart before I met him. And then when I met him, it was just a confirmation. So then we came back a month later after Shivarati. And that was actually just last weekend. And many beautiful mystical things unfolded on that weekend. And I'm not going to share them with you right now. I will do that in another video, in another setting. But it was really when I put my head at his feet that I had such a strong, intense spiritual experience that really made it very clear who he is and who I am. So when the initiation was really compassionately offered, I gracefully accepted. And on the last weekend, I received a new spiritual name, and that name is Kriya. There's so much more that I, in one sense, would like to share and could share with you, but I feel that I shared enough. Whatever conversations I had with him, whatever personal dealings I had with him, I want to keep this for myself. But I can honestly tell you that what makes it so special for me, the relationship with him, is that it is alive. I constantly feel him with me. He constantly speaks through me, through his different satsangs, books, through his voice in my heart. And there will be a time when I will speak more about this. But I wanted to share that with you because it's a big part of my life. And so much has changed for me since then. Even, I work as a coach and healer, and just calling his presence, I've seen so many beautiful miracles, people transforming, people experiencing their heart like they never did before. So I feel I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. He's the missing link that I was always looking for in my life. He is that person that connects me to the Lord of my heart, and He is the one that allows me to do my Dharma, my purpose in this world. So the Guru is really a relationship in the heart. It's really something that is very sweet, very confidential, and very personal. It is a reflection of your relationship with God. And I really pray that whoever you are, whatever tradition, whatever religion, whatever spiritual path you're on, that you find that relationship in your heart too. Yeah. All the best to you. Thank you for listening. And I pray that you also meet the Lord of your heart. Radhe Shyam, Jai Gurudev.
Shri Vitthala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namaha. Shri Vitthala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namaha. Shri Vitthala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namaha.